You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozar. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Friday the 16th of March. Drunk and disorderly at football match, a female Labour candidate. Shocking evidence of underage girl in suspected Muslim gang rape. Guns do not kill, knives do. Teenager given 14 years for stabbing. Euro news from the belly of the beast with Nick Griffin. Taliban shows true colours in breaking off talks about future of Afghanistan. Memorial service for those killed in Swiss coach crash. Thought for the day on Ofsted lackeys, or rather lack of education in our schools. UK news. Stephanie Brookfield, Labour Party candidate for Earcroft Ward in Darwen, Lancashire, has been arrested on suspicion of being drunk and disorderly at a football match. The incident took place at Molyneux Football Ground, which is the home of Wolverhampton Wanderers. Police say she was arrested and cautioned on Saturday and released after a few hours. Brookfield, aged 50, will be standing in the May elections. Well, let's hope she can stand. Ongoing reports on the Muslim paedophile rape gang. The third underage girl giving evidence in court stated that she woke up to being raped after the Muslim gang had plied her and her friend with so much alcohol and cannabis that they were unconscious. The 11 Muslim paedophiles are on trial at Liverpool Crown Court to face charges of allegedly raping 5 children. A teenager has been given a 14-year prison sentence for killing another boy for his mobile phone last year. 16-year-old Nathan McLeod from Thornton Heath, Surrey, stabbed 15-year-old Temedeo Ogunewi to death with a kitchen knife outside flats in Cormont Road in the London district of Camberwell. The killing took place just a few hours after the teenage killer was released from court after being charged with a knife attack on a gas engineer who came to fix his central heating. McLeod had 2 other youths with him, Darius Quakey and Kieran Carew Donaldson, plus a girl who cannot be named for legal reasons, and they took the mobile from Ogunwe after a row. The next day Ogunewi went to the block of flats to try and get his phone back, but as he approached McLeod he slipped on the wet grass and was stabbed by him whilst on the ground. McLeod received 27 months for robbery to run alongside his 14-year sentence. The other 3 admitted robbery. Euro news with Nick Griffin. Nick Griffin reminds us this week that the Euro beast has 2 bellies, one in Brussels and one in Strasbourg. It is, he says, a bit like a large animal designed by a committee. Nothing quite makes sense. Hence the financial bureaucracy operates out of the first and now defunct Parliament complex in Luxembourg, while the MPs are bounced each month between the multicultural cesspit of Brussels and the lovely, albeit remarkably unenriched, Franco-Germanic city of Strasbourg. Each monthly move, by the way, costs the taxpayer an estimated £2 million. In addition to the usual votes and a mass of late evening work on material for May's elections, we had a very constructive meeting of the board of the Alliance of National Movements. Part of this was filmed for a Danish TV documentary which should include footage of our recent demonstrations in Hyde and Haywood. It's due out on the 18th of this month and will be available online, although of course it will be all in Danish, so all most of us can do is to look at the pretty and the not so pretty pictures. I also got 2 90-second speeches. I was initially only due the more normal one, but Jean-Marie Le Pen had to go back to Paris early in connection with his daughter's presidential campaign and kindly passed me the slot for which he was booked to speak in the debate about the Russian elections. As always, my speeches will be online shortly, so I won't repeat what I said here. But I was delighted to get the opportunity to put the verbal boot into Baroness Ashton, who, despite never having even stood for election, now uses her position as the EU's Foreign Affairs High Representative to criticise Russia's fledgling democracy. The cheek from her colleague, a Belgian who is Vice President of the Commission, was even more blatant. This is a man who, while in government in Belgium, was responsible for banning the most popular political party in the country, the Vlaams Bloc, for not going along with the ruling orthodoxy. Yet he has the nerve to wag his finger at President Putin. Despite having an extra 30 seconds, I didn't have the time to point out that Labour Baroness Ashton is married to Peter Kellner, head of the YouGov polling organisation, which constantly uses explicitly common-purpose tactics to use polls to push the left's undemocratic social engineering projects on an unwilling public. The latest YouGov stunt is to co-produce an anti-BNP report with the state-sponsored thugs of hope not hate. Imagine if one of Putin's main allies was married to a man who headed an organisation which is used for opinion polls to manipulate public opinion, and which teamed up with a government-backed gang which routinely used intimidation and violence against the opposition. We'd never hear the last of it on the BBC or in Parliament. Not that I'm complaining. If these fools want to carry out highlighting to the public the extent to which we are outsiders who are not part of their cosy club, the happier we should be. Because their whole hideous project is doomed to collapse under the weight of its own folly and contradictions. Instead, I ask these pompous, overpaid, useful idiots of globalism where they will hide when it all unravels, because their days are numbered. First thing this morning I was up again in the debate on the report by North West Lib Dem Chris Davis on pie-in-the-sky plans for a competitive low-carbon economy in 2050. The final deindustrialisation of the West, to translate from New World Order speak into real English. I've made plenty of speeches exposing the unscientific man-made global warming nonsense on which all such proposals are based, so decided to take a different tack. So I used my 90-second ration of democracy to put down a clear, unequivocal marker as Parliament's only advocate for proper recognition of the looming peak oil crisis. Instead of the usual mutterings and sotto voce complaints that go on in the background when I slam the climate change fantasy directly, my warning of the impact of peak oil on food production was listened to in total silence. I hope it actually made a few of them think. Whether it did or not, mark my words, there will come a time in the not too distant future when they will have to admit that, on this subject too, we have been right all along. And they have wasted vast amounts of time and money trying to kill the wrong pig. How can such a clever and highly educated people be so criminally stupid? And what is it about us nationalists that so often allow us to see the wood when the others only see pink, fluffy marshmallows that they think are trees? World news. David Cameron is in danger of showing his true colours as he is currently in the United States at the pleasure of the Obamas. Media reports around the world are reporting that Barack Obama is in talks with Cameron over the issue of attacking Iran, obviously for its oil. One source has said, "They are all in the pot together, America, Israel, the Saudis and other heads of Europe. Yet another war for oil and global domination that has been planned well in advance." Reports say the Taliban have decided to break off talks with the United States. The Islamic terror group has said it will not get involved with peace discussions with the United States or the new government of Afghanistan. There is the writing on the wall then, finally, for the future of Afghanistan when the West withdraws. A memorial service for the coach crash victims in Switzerland has taken place. The parents of the 22 children who lost their lives when their coach smashed into a wall of a tunnel were at the crash site earlier today. 6 adults also lost their lives in the crash. Our thoughts are also with Sebastian Bowles, the only British boy to have lost his life in this crash. He was living in England until his family moved to Belgium 2 years ago. Thought for the day. Today I am dealing with my thoughts on the ridiculous statement from the government body Ofsted that schools are failing to instil their pupils with a lifelong love of reading. Well, there is damnation in it. Let us look at the probable root cause of that. Firstly, most schools, certainly inner city schools, do not have many pupils left for whom English is the mother tongue. Secondly, again, even if the children are more than first-generation immigrants, their own tongue will usually be spoken at home. Thirdly, our West Indian youngsters do not want to speak English as it is spoke. They want to speak nigger speak or rap speak. Fourthly, a good many white youngsters think this is cool as well and in fact are called Wiggers. And fifth, meanwhile our government has fostered and promoted TV, video games, Xboxes, is letting the web kill the high street and bookshops and closing libraries. What child without an adult will walk to a non-existent street with a non-existent bookshop and choose a book the title of which they cannot read? Get real. People in power. We have at least 3 generations of young people who not only cannot read but do not want to. They can get all the entertainment they need from TV and games. The schools are mostly inundated with foreigners, whether new or born here. Try teaching a hitherto uneducated child to read English and you will come up against their human rights not to learn what to them is a foreign language. It is also probably not spoken or encouraged by their parents. We are not like the French in this respect. From what I have learned, 90% if not all of their Arab or African immigrants can speak French. It is taught in their schools and spoken in their homes, even if as a second language, and if they do not speak it, they do not rate it in the system or in France as their adoptive country. Not so here, I'm afraid. A lot of lily-livered, diversity-riddled idiots run the education system such as it is around these people. Some schools run expensive and free special classes for newcomers, knowing if they do not do so, the indigenous children in the class will be held back from progressing. This is because in most state systems, the class is always put back to accommodate newcomers. How can we run a state education system based on around 90-odd languages, none of which our children are proficient in, and expect all children to read English books? It is rather like sending out a missionary to the darkest parts of Africa in the 19th century and expecting results. We do not teach British history in schools, we do not teach the Christian Bible in schools, we do not teach English grammar or literature anymore, so how are kids from different cultures supposed to adapt, language-wise, to their adopted country? No, we in British schools teach all pupils, whether newcomers or indigenous, all about black culture, Muslim culture, Indian culture and Chinese culture, so that our children are proficient in knowing everything about everyone else but nothing about British culture, religion and language. The language of a country relates to everything that occurs in it. All everyday matters should relate to the language. We are fast becoming a jack-of-all-trades country and master of none. Bring back proper teachers, not women who go back to work part-time and refuse to set or mark homework for young students because it intrudes on their home time. I came up against this one in a state comprehensive school with my eldest son, who had to leave public school and go into the state system because of lack of money at that time. He was 14 and had been having 2.5 hours homework every night supervised in public school, and I was told by the now ex-grammar school headmaster that owing to staff considerations he and his classmates would not receive homework for another year of schooling. When I attended private school, which I know was around the time of the invention of the wheel, all our staff were dedicated teachers, not part-time earners. During my convent days, the ruler literally ruled my knuckles if a word was uttered out of turn, and homework, whatever age I was not handed in promptly. Children had no rights, parents had less, and the place of education had the majority rule. No human rights to remain ignorant and stupid the rest of one's life there then. I believe some of the answers could lie in capping or stopping immigration immediately. Start voluntary repatriation. Bring back some sort of military service for all, which means all children would have to speak English, and start concentrating on our children and their progress. If they are truly our future, it would help if they spoke and read English from birth, not halfway through their lives, if at all. The government needs more discipline, so does Ofsted, beating around an imaginary bush. What did one of our Prime Ministers say? Education, education, education. Then promptly open the floodgates of foreigners onto the education system. Wonderful. It really has worked, hasn't it? We are now 23rd down the educational ladder. I do not think we even deserve that. And finally, not so funny comic Russell Brand has been arrested in the United States. The comic, who is best known for his untidy appearance and faux pas, was arrested for criminal damage when he threw a professional photographer's iPhone through a window. Police immediately put out a warrant for the lefty and soon arrested him. One source commented, "This is an obvious publicity stunt for him to break into America. The usual procedure in some American county prisons is to give the prisoner a good hose down, a haircut and a shave, which would do him the world of good, and that only needs one more thing, get them to clean up his act." You have been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozart, and from the Radio Britain team we wish you all a very happy and safe weekend.